Hi, it's Kari. Buckle up for a video. I hope this is a fun one. In 2023, I had two psychotic episodes that landed me in the hospital. The first one lasted over a month. I wanted to make a short video to touch on the sensory experiences that I had during my episode and in the early stages of my recovery. I have never heard anyone talk about this, but there are some papers on the topic that I found, which I will link in the description. And I'll start off with a slight bit of scientific background, stuff you probably already know. Sensory processing happens in the brain. Your sensory organs, like eyes, ears, and skin, detect stimuli from the environment and convert them into electrical signals. These signals travel through your nervous system to different areas of your brain for processing. Your brain then interprets the signals, filtering out unnecessary information and integrating them into a hopefully coherent picture of hopefully reality. During psychosis, this entire system becomes dysregulated. The filtering mechanisms can break down, causing sensory overload. The interpretation processes can malfunction, leading to hallucinations. This integration between different senses can get mixed up, potentially causing synesthesia-like experiences, which leads me to probably the first symptom I experienced when approaching my episode. I remember doing my work on a Sunday afternoon. I was increasingly dizzy and disorientated. I remember my director, because I was working as an observer that day, being like, "Dude, are you good?" And then I remember basically passing out, finding myself with my head on the keyboard and not being able to tell which way was up. It was very similar to the feeling of being extremely drunk, and like being drunk, it also included a lot of blacking out. Often in my episode, I would feel waves and waves of dizziness and the feeling of sinking or the feeling of floating and then suddenly feeling my weight again, and I wouldn't be able to move. I had very abstract visual hallucinations. I saw a lot of swirling colors and waves, and they would move and rock with the sounds that I would hear, sort of like you might expect during an acid trip. This would come and go. I have very vivid memories of some things that must have been visual hallucinations. A single blue eyeball, a friend on FaceTime, and endless undulating shadows and shapes that I wasn't sure were anything. I also had dark floaters and stars that would collect at the corners of my vision. And these slowly went away over the months following my episode. I will say that my most profoundly vivid visual hallucinations were sort of like dreams, I want to say. Like the area of my brain that creates dreams was just kind of on all the time. And I could tell that things weren't really there, but I could still see them, if that makes sense. This one was very frustrating, but I'm not sure that I can say a lot about it because it's extremely difficult to put into words how things were different than they were before. I would hear my phone ring, but somehow it just didn't sound right. I would put on one of my favorite songs, and the little micro sounds and tones that I had come to know and expect just didn't hit the right parts of my brain. I thought my technology and electronics were breaking or not working. I got so angry about this that I cut my favorite pair of headphones in half and just yeeted them across the room. I gotta say, I don't remember eating much during my episode, but I noticed this a lot when I was trying to get back to normal. I wanted foods that felt familiar and comforting, but oftentimes they would taste and feel completely different in my mouth than I remembered. I remember very specifically that I tried these peanut butter and chocolate protein bars, the Cliff Builders bar, if you know them, and I've eaten them for years, but the flavor was sharper and more sour than it was supposed to be. This happened a lot. It made me cry many times to take a bite of what I was hoping would be a familiar dish and have its flavor be completely out of left field. This is something that also came up a lot as I was recovering. The main thing was that certain parts of my body would feel like they were completely on fire or overloaded with sensation. My feet, especially, were extremely sensitive to touch and texture. A therapist with the best of intentions recommended a barefoot walk in the grass as a grounding activity. And I was like, whoa, no, not doing that. The texture of grass on my skin was like jagged shards of glass, and I found myself habitually covering my feet with the thickest, fluffiest, least restrictive socks that I could find. As a child, I was barefoot everywhere all the time, but in the months following my episodes, I put on the fluffy socks right as I got out of the shower, and I would wear them all day. Yes, even when sleeping. And that kind of leads me to my final point here. If you've recently gone through a psychosis episode, even though you're probably feeling like your body and mind have completely betrayed you, you still have to honor what they're telling you in the moment. In my experience, you have to keep finding and doing what feels right for you in the moment while slowly allowing your body and mind the chance to rest and regenerate what has been damaged. That's going to be different for every person who experiences psychosis, but if you have any constructive or kind thoughts or experiences on the topics, I'd love to hear about them in the comments.